Bill Gates has been caught releasing billions of diseased mosquitoes in the US, and it just so happens that he has a vaccine coming out soon, which he says will solve the problem of the diseased mosquitoes. The evidence against Gates is damning, and the Gates-funded mainstream media is doing everything it can to suppress and bury this story. Months after a Bill Gates tech startup called Oxitec released billions of genetically modified mosquitoes into the wild, mosquitoes across the US are testing positive to extremely rare and deadly viruses, some of which were eradicated decades ago, and others which have never before been reported in the United States.
Inside boxes like these on the Florida Keys, a possible key to what scientists hope will slow an invasive and dangerous mosquito species. They're called Aedes aegypti and are known to carry diseases like Zika, dengue, and yellow fever, the females spreading infection with their bites.
In the Keys, they make up just about 4% of the mosquito population, but are responsible for virtually all of the mosquito-borne disease transmission to humans.
The potential solution starts at Oxitec's lab, where tiny eggs are injected with a modified DNA strain, ultimately producing mosquitoes that have what's called a self-limiting gene. Only the male offspring can survive past an early stage. The boys, unlike their female counterparts, do not bite.
They run out of females to mate with, and that's how you bring the population down.
This week, Oxitec began the process of releasing 140,000 male eggs in 6 locations along the Keys. That is part of a live experiment greenlit by the EPA. Though some environmentalists are crying foul.
Genetic engineered organisms are not something that we can control. Evolution will find its own way.
She wasn't wrong. Gates's diseased mosquitoes have multiplied, and Florida and Texas are now reporting malaria cases for the first time in decades. But it's not just Florida and Texas. Various states across the US have reported a sharp increase in mosquito-borne viruses. In the Midwest, cases of the mosquito-borne Jamestown Canyon virus are on the rise. Jamestown Canyon virus can cause severe disease, including encephalitis, which is the infection of the brain, or meningitis, which is the infection of the membranes around the brain and spinal cord. Health officials say 2 mosquito pools in South Georgia have tested positive for eastern equine encephalitis, which has a 30% fatality rate in humans. And it's not just humans in the firing line. We know the WEF had declared war on our pets, so it should come as no surprise that a mosquito-borne virus that can be lethal to pets is also on the rise across the country. What's going on here? After this quick break, we expose Bill Gates' evil plots, using his own words, and prove that there is no such thing as a coincidence. Bill Gates was so excited to rub our noses in it that he recorded a promotional video to boast that mosquitoes are the deadliest animals to humans, and that he was going to release millions into our backyards.
Dengue fever is a terrible disease. Dengue comes from a virus that the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes carry, particularly in urban areas. It affects about 400 million people a year and causes over 20,000 deaths. We can seed mosquitoes with Wolbachia and get them out in a community where they'll mate, and over time, the prevalence of Wolbachia will go up. This is an approach that the researchers at the World Mosquito Program have pioneered. And one of the test sites is the city of Yogyakarta, which had some of the highest dengue rates in all of Indonesia. I visited there almost 10 years ago when this project, supported by our foundation, was in its early stages. I even helped feed and release some of the Wolbachia mosquitoes. When it comes to killing humans, no other animal is nearly as deadly as the mosquito.
Bill Gates created the problem, and now he is preparing to appear in his familiar guise of a false prophet and provide the solution, which just so happens to be in the form of an mRNA vaccine that he's determined to force on you and your children. The soon-to-be safe and effective BioNTech malaria vaccine began clinical trials in December 2022, just in time for the great mosquito-borne virus explosion of 2023, as orchestrated by Bill Gates. The Gates-funded BioNTech vaccine will, without a doubt, get FDA approval, and the mainstream media will, without a doubt, push the gullible masses to roll up their sleeves for yet another dose of Bill Gates' mRNA. The mainstream media are working overtime to suppress the story of Gates' involvement in the mosquito-borne viruses plaguing the US. and they've also been ordered to perpetrate the falsehood that Gates does not profit from the vaccines he forces on humanity. But can we really believe anything they say about Gates, when he is essentially their paymaster and boss? A disturbing report revealed that Gates spends hundreds of millions of dollars every year funding mainstream media outlets all over the world, turning them into propaganda mouthpieces for the globalist agenda. An investigation by the independent outlet Mint Press reports that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation distributed $319 million in the form of over 30,000 individual grants to media outlets and fact-checkers. Major mainstream news outlets including CNN, NBC, The Atlantic, the Financial Times, BBC and others are all beneficiaries of Gates' funding. None of the outlets provide any notification to their audience that they are bought and paid for by Bill Gates. Can anybody else see the problem here? Gates released billions of diseased mosquitoes into the wild. They are now causing enormous problems, and the mainstream media, which is funded by Bill Gates, is convincing the masses that Gates has nothing to do with it. But you should take his vaccine. Robert F. Kennedy has been warning us about Gates' psychopathic traits for years now, and he explained how Gates and Big Pharma control the narrative on mainstream media. But there is just one problem for Gates and his fully bought and paid for mainstream media hacks. We have Gates on camera at the World Economic Forum admitting the dark truth about his vaccines and so-called philanthropy.
Given billions for vaccines and saved millions of lives, if you just kind of invert that and say, no, we're trying to make money for vaccines and not trying to save lives, that's a popular conspiracy theory.
You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out the return on investment for that, and it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
Over a 20-to-1 return. So if you just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything else. We're trying to make money for vaccines, and that's a popular conspiracy theory. Over a 20-to-1 return.
Damning stuff. And yet Gates will remain untouchable as long as the normies continue watching mainstream media news and accepting everything they are told unquestioningly.